wise man once said there's a fine line between hobby and mental illness. We're in the middle of rural Pennsylvania to highlight the best, worst idea in the history of motorsports: top fuel dirt motorcycle racing. So on this kind of gray and soupy day at the Blair Bedford Dirt Drags, we're going to be featuring top fuel motorcycles running down a 500-foot course made out of clay and limestone dust. This is a sport that actually originated in the world of hill climbing. When guys were waiting to run up the hill, they would find a flat piece of ground and run their stuff side by side, heads up against each other. Motorcycle dirt drag racing gained huge popularity on YouTube a couple years ago with one video featuring 89.5 million views. But here's the thing, no one's ever done what we're gonna do today by taking a deep dive into the sport and the machines and how all this stuff actually works. The two motorcycles we have here today are nitro-burning monsters. One is an injected American Harley-Davidson V-twin style bike, and the other an inline-four supercharged import style motorcycle that achieves speeds of nearly 150 miles an hour if everything goes right. Because these bikes are powered by nitro, everything probably won't go right. And because this is a course that's lined with tires and concrete blocks, I can only imagine what happens when things go wrong. We have our two riders right here. This is Todd Leatherman, who'll be riding the Fire and Ice bike, and we have Jason Plummer, who'll be riding the King Rat injected Harley-Davidson behind me. Now, the cool thing about these guys is not the fact that they're mentally ill enough to get on these two motorcycles, it's the fact that you guys both actually grew up together doing this, right?
Yeah, yes. Since we was 3. 50s, 80s, come up on gas bikes. He was 16, he got a fuel bike, I was 17.
Yeah, you've progressed from literally the lowest level you can get, a little 50cc bikes. So, Jason, you're a second generation rider, right?
Yes.
Tell me about your dad's history in the sport.
He's doing it his whole life, when back in the 70s and 60s, and pretty much born into it, and that's, here I am, on top fuel bikes now.
And Todd, you know, you have in your possession here, you'll be racing today, a really historic motorcycle. This is the Fire and Ice bike, and literally tattooed on you here.
Oh, it's goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Hair raising, you know, it's just surreal. Elmer was my hero growing up, going to watch him from 92 on, and just to throw my leg across it, let alone for it to start up, it's unreal.
And Elmer he's referencing is a guy named Elmer Tread, who was kind of like the Babe Ruth of fuel motorcycle racing, and his parts are actually going to be powering you down the racetrack today.
Yeah, this is one of the few top fuel motorcycles left that still uses an Elmer Tread bottom end and head combination. It's basically small block Chevy on the bottom half and KZ 900 on the top.
So, Jason, I want to talk to you about something now. Your bike, about 150 cubic inch V-twin.
Yes.
Injected on nitro.
High gear.
And you're high gear only. So are you at a disadvantage because he's got a supercharger and everything else, or does the dirt play an equalizing factor?
I think for me it's better torque-wise, because you're only going short distance, so the torque gets you there quicker, I think.
Your tire is actually a modified drag race, like an asphalt drag race style tire, right?
They call it a bar tire. It's more flatter, and I think it's better than a Swamper, because a Swamper is a little more rounded.
And you prefer the Swamper?
Yes. I like a little crown on it, and it's a little more forgiving. If you get crooked, you can bring it back easier.
The asphalt drag race guys like to talk about track prep and traction compound and everything else, and you guys show up with pickaxes. What are you doing up there with the pickaxes on the starting line?
I'm using it to test the dirt, see how soft it is, how deep it is, what kind of bite there. A lot like they use with a wrench on the asphalt.
Make sure it's wide and smooth so you get a good launch. We got a big tire in the back, so it has to be nice and that width, rut. Make sure it's nice and level and straight.
What makes a good rider in the dirt?
When you find out, you tell us. You know, we just kind of progressed. You know, a little more tire, a little more power. It's a seat of your pants. If you have to think about doing it, you done crashed.
I like that. Well, I'm afraid standing here, so my career has ended before it started. Today's conditions, kind of wet, kind of swampy. We get some fog and mist and all kinds of stuff coming through. So, Jason, when you're reading the racetrack, what does that tell you?
It looks good to me, nice and smooth. It looks a little wet, a little bite to it. I think it might be pretty good tonight.
I dig it. I dig it. All right, boys, what do you say we get you in the leathers and burn some nitro?
Let's burn some.
All right, fellas, good luck. Be safe and be fast. I'm going to go hide behind the wall.
Yeah.
So we've seen the motorcycles, so let's see how they stack up with the cold, hard facts. Jason's bike is lighter, about 800 pounds. The big story here, of course, the engines. A thumping V-twin of 150 cubic inches for Jason, and a supercharged 80 cubic inch inline-four powering Todd down the racetrack. What a great, great battle.
Okay, are you ready for this? The big one has broken out.
Wow.
It's really good. Oh, yes.
Come on, man, hammer down.
Get MotorTrend with a free trial now.
So the boys are about to fire the bikes up in the pits and come up for the first round. You know, one of the things to watch on these things, one of the things you really can't miss, is that giant rooster tail of dirt. These things chew the earth up underneath them and rock it down the drag strip. If both of them stay lit to the finish line, it'll be flying dirt 100 feet behind them. Here we go! Man, so it was the ejected bike that got the first one. You saw Jason come off the starting line, came down. Todd had an issue. The bike was basically coasting when it came by us. We're gonna go get the time slips and you can smell the sweet aromas of nitromethane filling the air here in Pennsylvania. That was freaking awesome. Here at the Put Up or Shut Up Labs, we have learned one very important lesson over our time making this show, and that's that nitromethane in the fuel tank makes for unpredictable action on the race course. Let's look at the two graphs from our competitors that tell very different stories. Todd Leatherman cranked the throttle open on his bike, the G's climbed well up over 1G, and then they immediately started to fall when the motorcycle faltered and he coasted across the finish line. Jason Plummer's run, far more impressive and far faster. Jason ripped the throttle open and the bike accelerated to 1.64 G's on dirt in 23 feet. Right at 200 feet, you can see a spot where the G-load fell. I suspect that's where Jason might have hit a soft spot in the racetrack because it starts to climb immediately thereafter. Let's look at the drag strip and kind of read the story that it tells us about Jason's run. When we look at the dirt that the course is made up with, it tells us exactly how his motorcycle performed. From the top end of the racetrack looking toward the starting line, we can actually see the moment where the bike's physical speed matched the wheel speed. Where did it happen? Well, it happened right at this point here where the tires stopped chewing up the racetrack. It was almost dead hooked to it all the way down to the lights. You know, these tracks, this one in particular, is made from a mixture of limestone dust and clay. And what the guys told us was, you know the track is good when you can take a hunk of this stuff, squash it in your hand, and then see your fingerprints in it. Well, that's exactly what we can do here today, thanks to Mother Nature in this crappy weather.
Hey, Brian.
All right, for you, a wind light. 470, 120 miles an hour. Tell me about the ride.
It was a good pass. It took off a little bit, it blew a tire away, took off again, and everything was good, smooth. 4.7, that's pretty good.
You'll take it. You'll take it, and you'll take the wind light. It's
Right,
the biggest
right,
thing.
right.
So Todd, you're a rip. You were obviously out of the throttle real early. So
Yeah, I'm
talk
a
to me
little
about
salty. I just switched magnetos, been having some gremlins fighting them here recently, and I don't think I had enough ignition timing in it, so it went fat.
that. Yeah, well, I guess you know one of the things that's similar to your bike and any bike that runs nitro is fuel volume, right? You have a big fuel pump, 12 gallon per minute pump on this thing, and if it's not burning at all, you're going to drown that.
Yeah,
motor.
it took off good. As soon as it dumped a bunch of fuel in it, just like it shut off. So
Did you know, like at the hit, that it was like it wasn't happy?
within 25 foot.
Yeah.
Because it left fairly good. He was gone. He left a little harder.
Jason, in terms of your run, you know, now that you get a feel for the racetrack, do you change anything as far as how you launch the bike, how you
No,
ride
I'm
the
not
bike?
touching nothing.
Okay.
No, it's 4.7, I'm good with that.
Staying with
Just
that?
Staying with that.
So, switching lanes.
Right.
So you guys can go up there and get your, you know, garden working tools and go up there and
Yeah.
prepare your starting line.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Everything's happy with the bike, so nothing's.
Yeah,
You
nothing.
said you swapped the mag, but other than that, everything's cool.
Yeah, I just put some
Nothing's
timing
broke,
in it.
Everything's good.
Good. All right, boys.
And
Well, you
we're
can go
both
get your
upright.
starting line
Thank
set
you.
up, and we'll be back at
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, fellas. While we wait for our track to dry out, we can take a deep dive into Todd Leatherman's Fire and Ice motorcycle. This thing was actually built in the early 90s by a guy named Ron Webb, and it's still one of the fastest 25 bikes to ever run down the asphalt quarter mile. And the real magic of this thing is that it came off the asphalt and came onto the dirt with very few modifications. When we look at the motorcycle, it truly is a top fuel bike in the classical sense. It's a blown nitro burning engine, as opposed to the V-twin injected nitro engine that's on Jason's bike that'll be racing on the other side of the track. As we get a deeper look at this, we start at the front, we can see the fuel cell that holds the nitromethane that this thing burns. On a good run, Todd will burn more than 3 gallons of that fuel in the span of 500 feet and in less than 5 seconds. As we move back down the bike, we see the supercharger. This is a Sprintech screw-style blower that makes up to 60 PSI as the bike is charging down the top end of the racetrack. Jason's bike does not have a supercharger. It's naturally aspirated, injected on the nitromethane fuel. It also doesn't have near the ignition system this bike has. Twin magnetos firing 2 plugs per cylinder. Why do you have twin magnetos? As the supercharger is introducing all that much more air, you can burn all that much more fuel. Continue to move back. This bike has a 2-speed B&J planetary transmission, the same type of transmission you'd find in an alcohol funny car. Another major difference versus the other bike is the fact that that bike does not use any transmission. It's high gear only, so it has a slipper style clutch, where this one is actually shifted as the bike goes down the course. So as we move to the back of the bike, we can check out a couple more elements. We have the Zoomy Exhaust that actually exits right behind where Todd sits. On a dark night when it's not pouring rain out and the track's dry, this thing will shoot fire 6 feet right up Todd's back. How do you get all this power to the ground? Well, that's about the tire, and certainly it's about the chain. Very strong, obviously, to handle the 1,000 horsepower that the motorcycle is sending to it. Finally, the tire. This is actually a modified TSL Bogger truck tire that's used. How is it modified? Every other lug has been removed. This thing claws at the earth like some sort of insane demon to get off the starting line, and this tire is responsible for not only moving the bike, but also sending yards and yards of earth skyward 100 feet behind the motorcycle as it accelerates to 150 miles an hour in 5 seconds. So as the guys get ready to come around the corner for round 2, one of the things we should talk about is a similarity between the bikes, not a difference, and it's the nitromethane fuel. Nitro is an incredible fuel because it has oxygen in it and it can be burned in huge volume. If everything goes right, you make 1,000 horsepower on Todd's bike. If everything doesn't go right and the engine RPM spins up, that mechanical fuel pump drowns the engine and Todd has to click it off, allowing the injected bike with far less horsepower to the finish line first. Let's hope he gets traction this time. So we've actually been waiting a few minutes now, and it seems like Todd's bike's having a problem. We hear him keep trying to fire it, and it's popping and banging. Maybe the fuel system, or actually gotta head back to the pits and see what the thrash is about. Get the mad thrash going, brother.
Oh yeah, we're trying.
We heard you try to fire it a couple times. What do you think the issue is, or what have you been hunting around with?
Well, I'm really hoping it's these magnetos. It just seems really lean and almost like the motor ain't getting no fuel. I tried to change the fuel system, it didn't respond. So they only need 2 things, fuel or fire. So it sounds easy, but it's sometimes more complicated than that.
No, absolutely, man. So you swap the mags. We're gonna let you keep thrashing.
Okay.
We're actually gonna go talk to Jason and his dad, because thankfully his dad showed up with a bike, and
Yes.
I think we're gonna make a little fun with that. You guys make some noise. We'll be back to see you in a few minutes. There's one thing I know about drag racers is that they suck waiting around. The good thing is these guys came prepared. They're like Boy Scouts. They showed up, the plumbers did, with 2 motorcycles, so I have an idea to spring on Paul. All right, Jason, you showed up to be a drag bike rider here today. Paul, you showed up to be a crew chief here today. But like I mentioned before, you're like one of the Boy Scouts. You came prepared. Your bike is sitting here. She got 150 cubic inch motor here. Yours is what, 96?
96.
You feel like you want to slap the leathers on and go out there and have some fun?
Oh, yes, sir.
You just got to eat the kid up at the tree. Everything will be
Right,
fine.
right. That's what I'm going to try.
All right, throw on your leathers. Let's go and have some fun.
I guess I do.
All right,
Appreciate
good.
that.
We're going to burn nitro yet.
Okay, are you ready for this? The big one has broken out. Wow, it's really good. Oh, yes.
Come on, man. Hammer down.
Get MotorTrend with a free trial now.
All right, so the season of the weird unplanned plot twist on Put Up or Shut Up continues. We have Paul and we got Jason coming up to the starting line right now. So instead of having a blown, injected 4-cylinder bike versus the V-twin bike, we got a pair of V-twin bikes. And yes, the kid's bike should be faster on paper with its much larger engine. But you got a guy that's racing him. His own father is a legend in doing this. He's been in the top 3 of points since like the 1990s with the All-Holly Drag Racing Association. He's racing against the biggest names in the sport, and surely he can take down his own kid, right? So as you're looking down the racetrack, the old man Paul is going to be on the Christmas tree's left. The kid's going to be on our side of the racetrack. Burping the throttle a little bit. Old man's in. The kid's in. Here they come. Oh man, GoPro's falling off, dirt flying everywhere. That was awesome. We're gonna check the time slip and we'll catch up with a proud son and a slightly frustrated dad. Well, apparently Jason Plummer didn't get the memo about respecting his elders because he just took it to his dad in our impromptu second round. Because the course has been getting misted on and rained on all day, the performance fell off just a little because of how sloppy it is out there. But I'll tell you what, the acceleration rate is no less impressive. It took Jason 2 seconds to reach 60 miles an hour once he opened the throttle. 3 seconds in, he was going 80, and 4 seconds in, 100 miles per hour, throwing dirt 100 feet behind him. The bike's peak speed was just shy of 120, and that came 4.5 seconds into the run. Absolutely incredible and a great display of just how gnarly these machines are. Well, I guess if there's one thing more powerful than a nitro drag bike, it's Mother Nature. So we'll get to the weather in a second, but listen, it's gonna be fun lining up next to your kid, right?
Oh yeah. I beat him lots of times, now he's beating me.
You know, you ran, I think, a 490 on that last pass, so slowed down a little from the first hit. But, I mean, the track obviously was starting to go away. We've been dealing with this rain issue off and on. Did it feel any different to you on the bike?
Nah, it stayed good. There's a straight, so 4.9 still actually good.
Our plan was to get you guys obviously back up on the racetrack for another. We were going to give you the back tire as well to give you a fighting chance out there. Unfortunately, it's pouring out here. The track has basically turned into a mud pit. And that is going to end what we're doing for today. One guy we have to talk to still is Todd, because he has been thrashing on his bike all day long, and we got to get the end of that story. Hey, Todd. Dude, thank you for your effort today. Obviously, it did not shake out the way you wanted, but tell me what all you went through, because I saw the thing look like you were checking ignition, checking fuel, the valve cover. What did you go through today?
Had the mags off of it, had the cam cover off of it, checked the cam timing, ignition timing, actually swapped out the mags, every fuel line jet can off of it to make sure there was no fuel plugs in it. Nothing, no trash in the fuel system, and didn't find nothing, and it still ain't running.
That's a nitro motorcycle for you.
Yeah.
Well, you get to take it back to the shop and work on it. And the deal is this: when your stuff is right, when these guys' stuff is ready to go again, we're going to figure out a time to come back here and do this the right way, because it is an amazing sport that people need to know more about and need to really see it showcased. Todd, thank you very much, man. We'll see you next time. Jason, you are technically the winner, man. Beat your own father, you beat him one time, so you come out of here with 2 wins and 2 races. So you're undefeated on the day.
Good day for me.
Appreciate your effort, dude, and we will do this again the right ways down the road. You've been beating the drum on this thing for a long time, so it's fun to have you out here, man.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Ma Nature wins this one. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook/PutUpOrShutUp and follow us on Instagram at PutUpOrShutUp. And I promise one thing, we'll be back from a drier location next time here on Put Up or Shut Up with more fast stuff from more crazy places. We'll see you then. This is a TSL Swamper on the back of this bike. I was going to call it a truck. I should do that again. When else you talk about a Swamper? It's on a goddamn truck. That's what you put a Swamper on, not a goddamn motorcycle. All right, people are out of your mind.